This is probably a, in quotes, good
Right.
society, village, whatever, where they take care of people, and maybe everybody has a job and everybody has a bed to sleep in, and They take care of people. Okay, awesome. Versus the opposite, where it's dirty and gross.
Like Agrabah.
Like hey,
Riffraff.
Rugrats. Street rats. I don't buy that. Ethical agreements and moral dilemmas is something that you can't necessarily play beyond the boundaries that are established. Because people have established boundaries on these things.
Yes.
Right? And so just be careful when it is that you're going about these things. And so you might be saying, shut up about all this theory.
Shut up about all this theory, Byron.
Give me something to think about. And so I have a few practical examples. I think that they would save the many for the sacrifice of one. Right? I think generally people would try and do that. I don't know, though. And to each...
I think it's because it's called a monstrous manual, not like other people manual. Right?
It's your friends of varying sizes manual.
Right?
Okay.
Friends you haven't met yet manual.
Oh, nice.
Right?
This one's got 6 eyes.
They're monsters, so it's okay.
Grabby.
So grabby.
Trying to steal it first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every time you go to Chili's.
Who messed with this chair? The last Sean was bad Sean.
Was he bad, Sean?
Yeah, I gotta fix
bad, Sean?
Mess up my chair.
Your alignment? Your ergonomics?
My alignment. Oof. Now I'm chaotic evil, Sean. Mess up my alignment.
I'm gonna burn some babies.
Oh. Oof, don't do that.
Well, instead of doing that, why don't you just read the note?
Yes. Today's note reads, attention, read out loud exactly what is written on this note or be destroyed and replaced. Welcome to Caffeine Cantrips, the show where we talk about D&D or else. Oh, it's you. Today might be a little tough for you, adventurer. We're going to talk about the knife edge between justice and treachery, compassion and cruelty. Now, before we begin, let's take a moment to reflect on all the things you've done. Chilling. I know you heroes and heroines have danced upon the precipice of darkness and light. Some of you embark on your journeys and forget to pack a little light, don't you? We commend your bravery and valor in the face of countless challenges, where you have vanquished menacing beasts, deciphered cryptic riddles, and defied the odds.
Cryptic riddling.
Them riddles. But let us not forget, for every noble deed that you have committed,
everyone,
there exists a shadowy underbelly, a tapestry of actions that cannot be ignored.
Belly tapestry.
Oh, dear adventurers, take heed at the daring warriors who have stooped to deceit and betrayal, who have fallen prey to the allure of power, or even succumbed to the throes of their own darker natures. Remember, these are not accusations, but rather reflections that provoke contemplation and inspired discourse. Yeah, but fear not.
Oh, okay.
For in the vast realms of Dungeons and Dragons, we have the unique opportunity to explore the depths of our own humanity, to question our choices, and to strive for a higher standard of virtue. Today, we take a walk on the back lanes. Join us as we explore the highest highs and the lowest lows. Welcome to Morals and Ethics in D&D.
Hey, welcome. You have found Caffeine Cantrips. Congratulations. That is one check passed for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us. I, as always, am your resident fortress and Furbolg master, Byron, and with me...
Oh, I am Sean. I don't do furbolgs.
Oh, but Furbolgs
Or
do
fortresses.
Fortresses?
Fortresses.
Wow, we are setting off to a great start.
Great start. That's a
great start. Wow, what an introduction. Well done.
No, thank you.
Yeah. was amazing.
I had to read it or be destroyed.
Or be destroyed, and we're going to try not to be destroyed. Though today might be difficult for that one. Today might be difficult. I think the wizard's back. Or something must be happening. It looks like you guys are powering our tree here. And we've got some good vibes going on. I like it.
Well, enough for some light cantrips back here, it looks like.
Yeah, the magic is brewing. But today, because I think this might be a long one. I don't know. This one feels like it might be a little coarse.
It's chonky.
Chonky.
Nothing else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good old Chonky. We're talking about morals and ethics in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to extra chunk on this one. So I think I'm going to steal the initiative today.
Oof.
I know, for once. And maybe I'm going to set a bit of a scope for what we're going to talk about.
I like it.
So that we have a better understanding of kind of what it is that we're going into here.
Scope me out outside. How about that?
Scope me outside.
Scope you on outside. That's how it goes.
Classic.
Yeah.
I think it's really because these are big concepts in of themselves. This is stuff that philosophical individuals and philosophy majors alike kind of deal with on a daily basis. And here we come playing our fun, fancy, awesome game, and we dive into it just for shits and giggles.
Like, I just want to play D&D. Why are we talking about university level topics here?
Yeah, I want to roll dice, level up, and get loot. And why is that unethical?
Stop making me feel bad.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about and break down those two kind of major ideas then. So we have morals and we have ethics. And while you might think that they're very close together, like I did, I was wrong for once. Sad. Yeah, friends off. Morals.
What's the difference? Tell me.
Morals describes an individual's guiding principles and personal code.
Okay.
They essentially represent that individual's idea of what is right and what is wrong. And they're from an internal set of beliefs. So it's something that's ingrained within the person.
Okay,
and how the person views the world outside them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas ethics are defined by the society around you. So they are standards of right and wrong defined in a social or professional or legal context. And normally they highlight standards to consider when creating sets of rules, where to establish those boundaries. So a lot of times the safety of things kind of then denotes what is safe, good, and what is unsafe, bad. But technically, there's not necessarily a good or bad kind of thing behind it, like the Hippocratic Oath, right? I swear to do no harm that doctors take. Right. Well, technically, surgery means you're cutting into somebody. But the act of cutting into a person, I'm gonna cut a bee, is not in the intent to harm.
Cut you with a piece of glass.
Damn.
Leave your body
Street surgery. Right? It's not
street surgery.
It's not in the attempt to harm. Yeah, rough. It's not in the intent to harm or hurt people. It's actually in the attempt to heal them or make them better. Okay. Right. So we've defined that this isn't harm necessarily when we are trying to assist people. Right. But that is set by an objective board or a group of people in society that know what they're doing or supposed to.
So to bring it down a little bit to more plainly, is it kind of like at home? I don't think there's anything wrong with double dipping when it comes to like chips and a dip, but at a party, it's frowned upon to double dip at a party without asking.
Correct.
Kind of like that.
Also with chips and dip, yes.
The party chips and dip is the ethics at the party.
Right.
But at home is my own morals.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. So that different. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because you might not double dip, let's say, at home as well because you believe that is wrong.
Right.
Correct. So It is different because one is set by the norms of culture around you, where the other one is set by your internal beliefs. Now, while they might align or there's a heavy amount of crossover, it's not necessarily the same.
Right.
Right. And so points of kind of divergence is consistency. If you look at every individual in a group, they may have the same ethical constraint, but they may not have the same morals.
Yep.
Right? As you just kind of said, right? Everybody knows it's wrong to steal, but there's somebody in the group might steal. Right? Because they need to afford bread because they don't have money for it. Right? So they feel like it's okay to do that because they need food. I'm not saying anything's necessarily wrong with that. I'm not going to be the judgment on that thing. But that is a possibility that exists in there. Not everyone has the same individual rules, yet society sets a regulation across the board that is one flat standard.
Right.
Right?
Like tipping.
Like tipping, sure. Yeah.
Well, some people just don't agree with tipping, but they'll do it anyways because they don't want to look bad.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, you 10%ers out there.
Or people don't want to tip. They feel like 10%'s enough.
Right.
But everyone's like 15, so they do 15.
Inflation, man, gets everybody, even your tips.
It's a percentage. But anyways.
Yeah.
It's not inflation, it's standard of living.
Yes.
Anyways.
Yes. So that is an example of actually decision making, right? When you choose to abide by kind of an ethical standard, everybody says 15% is where you should be based at versus you go to 10% because once again, maybe you don't have it. Or maybe you do, but the service was poor and you're making a judgment call, right? There is a standard that everybody kind of abides by and then individuals fluctuate around that.
Whereas if you go to Japan, you tip, they'll chase after you. Like, here's your money. Here's your money.
Because you forgot it.
Right?
Yeah. And then kind of lastly, I think like governing factors is kind of a differentiation. While individuals may have different sets of standards, like individually, they will set a law that kind of is a umbrella across everyone to set a regulation.
Right.
Regardless
from like the government or the city or laws.
Exactly. No matter what they individually feel, they will find where that line is and kind of set a standard, or they'll create legislation or whatnot that gets through votes. And yes, there's all these kind of determining and fluctuating factors behind that, but ultimately that's another way that it defines differently.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that enough of a clear understanding between the difference on someone who is morally aligned and someone who's ethically aligned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it feels like ethics has so many different levels, right? Whereas morals is just you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And how you intersect with the world is kind of your moral alignment. Yeah. Versus all the standards that are out there.
It's a weird dynamic dance that you have to sort of navigate in the world.
It's weirdly separate when it shouldn't be. I've never really thought of it as different, but it makes sense now that I have a different comprehension of it.
Right. Well, it's like Americans tend to just wear shoes inside, or you have indoor shoes, whereas Canadians take off your shoes before you come into my house.
Yeah.
Right? It's right, and you feel strongly about that. Right? So it's societal norms, it's your own house norms. Like if I was a Canadian living in the States, I would want people to take off their shoes and come into my house because that's right. It's interesting.
I agree. So shout out to all you foot in the carpet people, because I'm one of them.
That's right.
Let me feel your carpet. You just vacuumed. It's wonderful.
Oh.
Thank you. But yeah.
Nice off carpet.
It's a good start point, I think.
Yep.
You can jump off from there.
Yeah.
Sure. Take us away then, buddy.
All right. I will.
Okay.
I want to talk about, let's talk about where do our morals come from?
Oh, okay.
Right? Like they're in us, but how do they get in us?
They're in us.
Like, how do I get it out?
I went for tacos last night. Is that?
Oh, maybe. Ooh, taco morals. There are, understandably, lots of factors in creating sort of our internal moral compasses, right? There's like how we grew up, who our parents were, right? Who our friends were, what city we live in, what country we live in, right? But it's sort of generally accepted that there is sort of some things play a larger percentage of sort of the effects on us growing up than others. From a descending from the most to the least, it goes something like this. It's debatable exactly how much these are. It's like,
this is in order of importance.
Yeah, it's like 20 to 40% of this, and then the next one would be like 15 to 35. Right.
Oh, okay.
But in general,
okay,
the it goes down like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So the it's interesting. The biggest factor in what makes our moral makeup is religion. Not necessarily the religion that you sort of subscribe to yourself or you follow, but it's the predominant religion of the society that you're born in. Right.
So that's an ethical standard kind of inducing a moral reaction.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Right. But definitely if you do belong to a certain religion, that's the number one factor.
Okay.
Generally. And these are big generalities, right?
Yes. 20 to 40% general.
So religion, the next one is social norms. And religion plays a part in social norms because there's a social normative religion typically in different cultures. Social norms are like, we stop at red lights when you're in a car, right? Where some countries, they don't, right? You honk only when someone's making a mistake to bring attention to them. In other places, bikes and bikers and cars will honk just to say hello, right? Like, beep, I'm here.
Hello.
Right? So religion, social norms. Next is upbringing, your childhood, your parents and stuff like that. Then after that, it's your education.
Okay.
How you're educated, where you're educated, blah, 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 so forth. And then after that is your legal system. It's like way at the bottom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Like,
interesting. Okay. For your moral compass. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For your own personal one.
Yes.
The legal system does have effect, but it's way down there.
Right.
And then after that, there's stuff like historical context for your country and stuff like that, but it's sort of down the list.
Negligible at that point.
So that's what it is. Again, religion, social norms, upbringing, education, legal system.
Okay.
Right. So the biggest one is religion.
Yeah.
And it's sort of across sort of cultures across the world too. And that's in real life. Now, when we're talking about TTRPGs or D&D specifically and D&D campaigns, it gets kind of muddy because religion is also the predominant factor in sort of campaign settings as to what will shape characters' moral compasses as well, because it's sort of us, we are a character type of thing, right?
Right.
But the difference in D&D settings is that typically gods and deities, which have a lot to do with religion, are definitively real.
Yes.
Right? Like they have fought wars, they've killed each other, they've come back, they've come down, and they have like avatars and blah blah blah. Like they have oracles and they talk to them, and like you can just cast magic spells to communicate with gods. Like they're there. There's no question.
They have stat blocks. They are part of the system. Right? This is for a normal game, right? Your game at your table might be custom, don't have gods or whatever, but as a normal statement, there is a divinity.
Yes.
In the games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or pantheons of them. Yeah.
Right. And the only reason why religion is not bigger in the real life is because we don't know if there's gods or a god or anything. Like we have faith typically, but we don't know. The world would change. Like if one day we just knew that a god, whatever god that was real.
Yeah, any of them. Any of them, yeah.
Right? But in D&D, we know they're real. The characters, the people, they know. Oh, Takesis is a thing. Bomb, it's a thing, right? Asmodeus is real. Right? Devils, demons, they're freaking real.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it has a huge effect on the formation of morals and morality within our D&D campaign settings, right? And in extension to that, our social norms will be affected too. So if this country worships a certain god, like everything changes, right? The morality of it's heavily based on whatever that god says now.
Interesting.
Right? or the main god is, or there's a mixture of gods. I don't know. It depends.
You would have to be a mixture because at least the way that they set up the pantheons, there's no omnipotent single god that covers all spheres and all aspects. So it would be like you got to find your all-star team to pray to.
Right. There's like Bahamut and Ayun. They can get along. It's fine.
So like instead of fantasy football, they're playing like fantasy Smite Town.
And it's crazy. Then things like, because for us in real life, we're like, no, be tolerant. If someone believes in like Hinduism, go ahead. Someone believes in Jainism, go ahead, right? If they believe in Shintoism,
like
awesome.
Janestown, like Jane from Firefly.
No, go ahead, right? As long as it doesn't hurt people, it's fine. Let's be tolerant.
I'm gonna be in my bunk,
right? But in D&D, the worship of certain deities would be banned in certain cities. Like the head of my town is Bahamut. Nah, you're not going to have like Tekisis worshippers. Is it Tekisis or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tiamat.
Sorry. The same thing, but different name. Same bird, different name.
Whoa.
Whoa there. Whoa there. But
it'd
be banned. It'd be like, no.
That's kind of the way it is already. Right? Generally, you get your quote unquote good aligned gods that have taken root as the primary individuals, and then your evil gods kind of are worshipped in the shadows and hidden.
Right. But that so it's again, I guess, different than real life. That there's no tolerance for things.
Well,
because of gods. Like there's certain levels of there's no tolerance. Like here, like people are like, yeah, I worship Satan. People are like, yeah, okay. If like those, if we knew that Satan and Jesus and everything that were real, it'd be like, no. How about no? How about no?
I guess it depends on their platform, right? Like what they're voting for, right? Or what you vote for. As far as like which gods if both are promising you eternal paradise, you're like, do I want one on the beach or one on the jungle? Right?
Like, but if my city or my country,
yes,
is like follows a certain god, then like Bahamut, no Tiamat, like out. Right. So again, I just want to talk about how, or I want us to think about how morality is intrinsically different in our D&D campaigns, in a typical any of our TTRPG campaigns, because gods are real, and goddesses and deities, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let that sort of sink in as we move on to a discussion today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, gods are real. The like and subscribe button is also very real.
You can touch it.
And that changes things, right? When you don't have a like and a subscribe button, and when you do have a like and a subscribe button.
Faith in the likes is different from knowing there's a like. This is true.
Well, exactly, right?
This is true.
Right, there's some real effects morally now on you guys, whether you click on the like and subscribe button or not.
Ooh, and if there's enough of you that do like, then you also have an ethical obligation. Because the cultural norm is to slap on that thumbs up, hit the bell, come join us, check us out on all the major platforms. See our Patreon. We have one of those too. And jump in the comment section because we love to hear from you. But your point is interesting.
Oh, is it?
Your point is interesting with the aspect of understanding that there is gods as kind of the fundamental difference, and religion, social norms, your upbringing, family, your education, your legal system. Yeah, it kind of like all of that becomes like 5%, except for religion. Right? Like religion is just like boom, I am here. You will do or
right, like not. these like all seeing, all reaching beings.
Yeah,
not all, but big enough.
Well, they're all divine, and you are small, and we can And if you're dealing with like a Therosian pantheon, we're just the underworld is just bad, right? It's Greek underworld, it's just bad.
And all the deities are jerks.
No fun down there. Which is why when you pick all the good people to follow, right, to align yourself to ethically and morally, because you don't want to get smote. It's kind of like a match made in fantasy heaven. Right?
Fantasy
heaven, right? Because it is still a game. It is still make believe. This
is like fantasy football, but better.
Fantastic. That's what I said. Yeah, all stars. But it's It's important then that we reiterate the ideas of how being ethical and how being moral interacts when we are playing a game like 5e, or Pathfinder, or Starfinder, or any of these. It's very complicated. So, I mean, if we take it kind of step by step, we talk about the players as the first role, right?
Yep.
Those who show up at the table to play and roll dice and have fun and whatnot. You're coming in with your own, hopefully, inclusive feeling, right? Your tolerance, like you said, your patience. Everybody's coming from a different background. We support and like that. We want everybody to come and have fun and have a unique background and have a unique kind of idea of what they're doing and bring those versions of their cultural norms, right? To add color, to add flavor, to add depth and intrigue and interest, right? So we can explore and understand and experience. Now, that also means that because we can only kind of create from what we know, our PCs and our characters are biased by our own personal stories, right? And so it becomes very, very difficult very quickly to the layers that you penetrate when you essentially sit down and you yourself have your own kind of ethical responsibility, right? Like you said, did you obey all of the traffic signals and signs? Did you speed? Did you really stop at that stop sign, or did you kind of give it a little rolling go?
Stop?
Right? You know, it was clear. There was no but when we start talking about these sorts of things, there is a whole jumble of stuff that affects us in real life.
Yes.
Without having to worry about gods. And then we sit down with all of these biases, and our real life selves create an artificial, not really an artificial, but an avatar of ourselves, or parts of ourselves, or whatever it is, the character that we're embodying at this time. And they then, if you give them full consideration, have their own set, and their set is far more complicated than our set. So not only do we have less of an understanding of where they're coming from, because their worlds are more complicated, specifically, ethically and morally. Well, it is, because there's no kind of overlying one thought or one kind of set of rules. Right. Like you said, in this kingdom, we worship these gods. In that kingdom, they worship those gods. In the kingdom over there, they worship these ones. And you have a representative of each of those kingdoms at your table, perhaps. Right. You don't always come from the same town or from the same tavern or from the same family, circus, whatever it is. And so when you're sitting next to these individuals as players playing characters, the characters all have their own moral and ethical dilemmas that are different and have different bases to kind of grow from and expand from and understand from. And this becomes a real big jumble if you let it, right? If you go all the way, never go all the way. But if you go all the way.
Never go full ethics.
Yeah, never go full. Go full moral, though. But there is this complication that can happen where we can get really bogged down in all the different aspects and all the different teachings and all the different understandings. And, you know, is your character actually proficient in religion or an understanding of these things, right? And is that a textbook or is that a faith-based understanding? And how does it go, right? Do they know what's right and wrong, or do they understand the laws that tell them what's right and wrong, but they know that the God would be okay with it? So are these the rules of man, or are these the rules of the gods? And and all of these questions that can happen. And so we talked about this a long time ago. But
did we know?
When we spoke about alignment.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. This conversation is kind of a reintroduction and a reinforcement of what we talked about before. Okay. Where there's so much complexity and nuance that's probably outside most of our understanding, right? I don't care if you build worlds for a living or if you just play in them for fun once a month. The understanding of what an everyday occurrence or an everyday life of an NPC in this world is a world apart. Right? It's a life apart. It's something that you can never. I can't know your experience. How can I experience somebody who I don't know how their life works, right? I have these giant gaping holes in who they are and what they do and all the things that they have to go through. So I can't know them. But what I can do is boil it down, like we talked about before in the alignment kind of conversation, into core values. Right? Picking a few very strong indicators of how this works and is way easier to do than to deal with all of the nuance.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to go, okay, primarily this government or this kingdom worships Bahamut or Bahamut, however you want to enunciate it.
Bahamut.
Great.
Bahamut.
He is law and justice and righteousness. Cool. So we know that this place is going to be pretty much on the up and up.
Yeah.
Right? Awesome. Now I just need to know that those tiny things. I don't know his actual personal likes or dislikes of his sister, right? Like I don't need to know that necessarily to know that Bahamut good, Bahamut just, Bahamut lawful, right? Okay, great. I can work with that, right? And create my understanding of that based on those kind of core principles very quickly and easily. And I can also see that in the people around me, in the characters around me as well, if they adopt core principles and core values. Right. Wherever they're going to find them, probably, like you said, primarily from how the systems or the kingdoms that they come from or their backstories, whatever it is, primarily through that cultural norm, aka whatever the god said it's going to be. Right. But it's easier to deal with a smaller amount of variables than it is to deal with the infinite amount of variables that we don't know because it either hasn't been written or we don't have time to do all the research or you're become like an L. Ron Hubbard and you start writing your own religions to understand other religions that other people have made, right? It's exhausting. Yeah. It's exhausting. Yeah. So break it down into a system that is manageable. Break it down into smaller things so that you can look at morality and ethical questions and ethical standards in a way that is kind of a bite-sized chunk of how big a topic this is. Yeah. Because otherwise it's super, super easy to get overwhelmed. And understand that from both a player and a DMing perspective, that what you choose to create as examples or what you choose to exemplify as you go through is a window for everybody to interact and see into what's going on in the campaign. What is in the campaign itself? Because we said before, the campaign is a character. Yes. Right? The world is a character. Yeah. And whatnot. So it's easy to see, okay, the streets are relatively clean in this town. There are guards walking around. There's not a lot of whatever you want to call it, like beggars and homeless and whatnot. Okay, this is probably a, in quotes, good. Right. Society, village, whatever, where they take care of people and, you know, maybe there's everybody has a job and everybody has a bed to sleep in and da-da-da-da. They take care of the people. Okay, awesome. Versus the opposite where it's dirty and gross. Like Agrabah. Like hey, riffraff, rugrats, street rats. I don't buy that. There's a huge visual component to that show, don't tell. Yes. Where you can get a great understanding of what you're walking into by the description of the world around you. Yeah. Right. And you can understand at a base level, which is kind of where you need to be at to operate on this stuff, of what is going on around you and whether that is a good thing that you can participate in, whether that's a bad thing you can participate in, or any of that giant spectrum that's between them. Right. And I'm going to go to the quote unquote good part of town. I'm going to go to the quote unquote bad part of town. Right. And I expect to find certain things there, but then I'm also controlling and adjusting the scope of what I'm seeing, regardless of what gods are above and whatnot. I can deal with something more tangible in the campaign and tangible with my character can interact with. Yes. Or I, as a DM, can respond to these things that the characters seem interested in or the players seem interested in a tangible way that can cause some actual effect. Yeah. Right?
It's interesting how you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the good part of town. And you know what that looks like. I'm going to go to the bad part of town. But
you automatically have a picture in your head.
But that's where that real life in-game dichotomy
it's a blend.
Blows up a little bit. Because when the person who's saying, I'm going to go to the good part of town, that's the player. Right? Because maybe he's a rogue and he's like, no. The good part of town, that's where the rich exploiters live.
Yes.
They are the bad ones.
Yes.
The good part of town is it's the salt of the earth. People are working hard for their money.
Right. People earn their coin.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that sort of conflict.
Yes.
That you have when we have a player who exists in real life plays in a TTRPG that exists in fake life, right? Fantasy life.
Fantasy life.
Fake life. It's like
Life.
a large Hadron collider of worlds.
Smash.
Like a world collider, right?
Right.
And it's interesting. Like we talked about, like it's that real versus campaign level, player versus PC level, right? And lots of interesting things, just like the Large Hadron Collider in real life. You smash these particles together and you see what comes out. You do the same thing.
Unless you're like one of those Mandela people who believe that the world is actually done. Some of us have traveled.
Maybe, who knows?
Between universes. Bernstein bears.
It's an interesting idea. Did you say Bernstein bears?
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
In some ways, D&D or TTRPGs is like a Large Hadron Collider where you can smash these morals from real life and the morals in the in-game life, ethics of real life and ethics of in-game life, and see sort of what comes out. In that way, you sort of explore the nature of your own morality and the nature of your own ethics too. Right? And it's a really cool way of doing that because if you think about it, the morality and ethics in, like we talked about, in a typical, say, Faerun setting is way different, right? Like killing, just slaughtering certain things, it's fine.
Certain things.
Right? Like
A-okay.
Like, I don't know, 4 bandits from the bandit camp came, I don't know, killed a family and stole their stuff. So the adventurers are hired by the town to get rid of them, and they go and they slaughter 50 of them. All 50 of the bandits in their camp.
I didn't say how big the room was.
Right? Like, cool.
Fireball.
Like, here's 50 gold. Thanks. 1 gold for each murder I committed.
That's half a fighter.
Right? In real life, that doesn't happen. Like, the police go, I'm going to catch those 4 guys who did the killing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, the rest of the gang, we don't know yet. Like, it's wrong to do that in real life. Well, depending on your attitudes. But in general, the ethics say no.
Once again, depending on the countries. Yep.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right? One of you guys still killed the entire family.
Yeah.
or like, same thing. Like, I went and I killed 50 of those bandits and I looted all the dead bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is the bread and butter of adventurers.
Loot them while they're hot.
That's how I earn my income.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's my job as an adventurer. No, don't do that. Like, don't go.
Well, they technically become objects when they're dead.
Look,
so
here's a war zone.
I don't steal from people.
I'm just going to come behind the front lines and just start looting all the dead people from both sides. Like, that's.
They did that.
Horrible. I know, but it's bad in real life.
It is now.
Right.
It used to be a cultural norm.
In D&D, it's just economical.
Right.
Right. Same thing with like lying and deceiving, like just to get like a 10% discount or whatever.
Right. Intimidating.
Right. Or like guards asking you a legitimate question. And just because you don't want to deal with the trouble, you're just lying, intimidate, deceive. Right. Like it's like a cop is trying to help you and you just, I don't want to bother with you. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly okay as players. Yeah. As players, we do this all the time and we think nothing of it.
Right.
Right. But as characters, maybe they should.
Well, and see, this is, I mean, there is an argument, I think, that is fair to present that when we look at our own history, when we were quote unquote
medieval
less
times.
Civilized, right? When the world was rougher, right? And things were live by the sword, die by the sword, right? Like life is rough. Bandits do come to town.
Yes.
Highwaymen do ambush you on the road, right?
Well, Vikings will raid your coastal villages.
They pull up in their sweet, sweet longboats and they take your women's and your gold and off they go, right? Like these were facts of life and it required people to respond to them in brutal ways, because what life was giving them was brutal lemons.
Right.
It's a good heavy metal band.
Brutal lemons.
Brutal lemons. So, it
Playing the guitar like,
was it fair? Yes. I think it was. But or was it ethical? It was ethical, because that was the cultural norm. That was the standardized thing, is that when people come to your house with swords and torches, that you draw your own sword or you give them your stuff.
Right.
Right. Like that's the option. And so we hearken back to a very glamorized version of that when we play, but we're ignoring, once again, that kind of the filth and the understanding of what it was actually like.
The quote unquote heroes doing this, as we talked about in the note.
Yeah.
Right.
And heroines.
Yeah. Like just doing horrible things, but they're heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's because D&D isn't real life.
It's not.
Real modern life, at least. And that's...
For now.
Fireball. It's a good thing.
Well, I was just going to say the tech.
Yeah.
Shout out to us.
Flamethrower. The tech.
The tech.
But it's a good thing that it's not real life. Because it does let us explore real life moral and ethical questions that we can't do by doing these things in real life. That would not be good.
No.
But why are people do that for YouTube content? Like, oh, bro, it's just a practical joke. Really? Because you're being a jerk.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're actually being a dick.
Right. So maybe it's not the best. So real life isn't really the best to have sort of moral experiments, or it's much more difficult. Right, to have ethical experiments without being unethical.
Right.
Whereas you can do that
Yes.
in a fake world.
Yep.
Right, in a make-believe land. Like examples of questions are sort of what is bad about slavery?
Lots. If not all of it.
What specifically is bad, right? Is indentured servitude the same as slavery? Is it better than slavery? Why is it better than slavery if it is? Right.
That's still a question. Yes.
Right.
Important that it's a question.
Yes. Or do the ends justify the means?
Right.
If you look at our typical D&D heroes, yes. That's why they're so horrible.
Yeah.
Right. As people, these heroes are generally. Right. But shout out to the Second Dead Paladins.
The goats.
You guys are the goats.
It is. I mean, it harkens even to just we're not going to milestone level. We're going to XP level. The more you kill, the more powerful you become.
Right. As Brendan Lee Mulligan said, at mage school, what do? They just go and they kill goblins.
They just,
That's all.
Yeah, kindergarten. We're just going to go firebolts and little green people.
I thought I'm supposed to learn sort of the magic, I don't know, like formulas and runes. No, we're killing goblins.
Yeah. And everything that we see on the way there. Yeah, trees,
right?
Foxes,
the magic
squirrels.
Magic will come.
It'll
just kill things.
Yeah. You just level up faster.
And maybe that's a consequence of the game aspects of D&D.
Right.
Sort of
having to have a system there.
Yeah.
But it's it has huge implications.
Right.
Morally speaking.
Right. Like if the characters in D&D land, like in Faerun, knew about XP and stuff like that and levels, it'd be different. Be such a different culture all over that world. So it's, again...
No, two people would just spend gold back and forth between their two shops.
As thieves?
As thieves, you get 2 XP per gold spend. They'd be max level overnight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you would just buy and sell debt.
Oh, that too. That too. That's a good one.
Like how money actually works.
Yeah.
In life. So yeah, you can explore these ideas that it's hard in real life. Because in real life, how am I going to be do the ends justify the means? Let's do an experiment.
We don't have that luxury.
Right. That's why these things are thought experiments.
Correct.
Right? Whereas in D&D, they're the sort of closest thing that you can kind of get to actually having a sort of a living, breathing thought experiment and seeing the consequences of these sort of moral decisions and the effects and how you feel about them yourselves.
Yes.
But I guess, how do you, if you're going to go around exploring morals and ethics in D&D, I think...
Because they're always there.
Yes. But it's not 100% safe either. there are ways of doing it successfully and the ways of doing it unsuccessfully. Unsuccessfully is like either you don't answer the questions, you're not good at exploring, or you hurt people in real life because of it, of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So some things to keep in mind when we're doing these moral explorations is, I guess, the first thing you need to do is sort of try to understand the moral and ethical sort of landscape of your setting. Right?
Okay.
If you're playing Faerun or something like that, it's sort of, we in general are familiar with it, but if you're playing a custom campaign, you got to work with the DM then, right? If you really want to know.
Well, I mean, both are uphill battles, right? If it's a homebrew one, then your DM is responsible for creating most, if not all, of the information that you have, and that's a huge burden. Or labor of love, whatever you want to call it, right?
It's a huge amount of work.
It's a huge amount of work to be done in order to create the nuance of that. Conversely, you go to Faerun, and there is just book after book after book.
You have to consume and understand.
Once again, it's
different
already
cultures,
written, but there's so much to read. For every country, there's histories to understand, and then the interaction between them and all the ages that they've gone through. Like, either way you go about it, it's a ton of work.
Yes.
Right. And so that's kind of awesome, but also
if you want to explore these things,
if you do, yes.
Yeah. If that's like a goal of yours, right? Then you have to put in the work, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. And when's a great time to talk about that?
Yeah. Session 0.
Of course.
Session 0 is a great place to talk about a lot of things, right? Talk about sort of the themes that you might want to explore during the campaign, like the ethical themes, the moral themes, because there will be things that some people are uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do want to say, I don't know, want to explore sort of the moral implications of sort of abandoning children or betraying people, right? Some people can be very sensitive to those things.
Absolutely.
Right. So session 0, make sure you talk about sort of the themes that you want to explore and make sure it's okay. Right. Also, if you talk about the themes you want to explore, you can also talk about like which countries you're going to go to.
Right.
Maybe in general, it's these countries. So know about the ethics and morals of these societies.
The scope of the campaign.
Yes.
Right. Is it in a town? Is it in a city?
We're not going to go to the desert cities. It's just these forest elven and some of the dwarves.
And these are the basic laws. And these are the things that you will all know going into this campaign. Right.
Session 0.
Session 0.
Right. Well, we love session 0 here.
We do. Session
0. And then once you do that, you need to try to separate your player knowledge and your PC knowledge, right? You should do that anyways. And then act based on your character's values and your beliefs. If they happen to be the same as you, that's fine, right? But understand sort of your, especially if you're going for something like you're playing villains, right? Separate yourself from your character, because hopefully you're not a villain in real life. But in order to really explore that level of sort of morality and ethics, you separate yourself from it and separate the other people from their players too. Have that clear separation so that you don't let those kinds of things sort of bleed into each other too much, because that could be dangerous.
Right.
They're like, oh, you betrayed me. Yeah, I'm exploring betrayal.
Right. And we agreed, we talked about it.
Yes.
Which actually, this is a good example, right? Like, I thought being betrayed would be a fun thing to explore. But now that you've stabbed me in the back, the knife kind of hurts.
Right.
I didn't think that you were going to do it like that. And I don't know if I'm actually okay with this anymore.
Right.
Oh, snap, my bad. I thought this was okay.
Yep.
But now since we're talking about it right after it happened, let's change it so we're both happy.
Yeah.
Right. So that we can move forward. I'll erase some of the stuff that I was going to do to you because that was only phase 1. Right. And you're just like, oh, yeah, thanks for that.
Or, I mean, maybe it happened. Don't need to retcon it. Maybe it's the perfect time to sort of RP character development.
Correct.
Right. So, cool. That kind of sucks. Let's RP the change and explore what that looks like.
Yes.
Right? The change in morality, the change in sort of ethics.
And we as players agree that there needs to be a change now because one of us is not going to be having fun if we continue. And so we force them. And so that's kind of an example of meta knowledge being useful.
Yes.
Right. And so separate the stuff that your character's not supposed to know, sure, but actively engage that meta understanding of the game to separate it and play from one pen, not both pens.
Right.
Right. And understand that. So yeah, no, get engaged with that.
Yeah. Another thing you can do that's great if you want to explore through your character's actions. But what really helps, I found, was engaging in character discussions. Talk about morality, right? Moral ideas between your character, from your character to another character, right? Because things come out in those conversations. For our sort of long-term viewers, we have made mention of this character Goblin that I played. He was built entirely to explore the moral beliefs and the ethics of all the other characters.
Correct.
Like that was one of the main purposes of me building that character, right? And he did that mostly through discussion. Like, why'd you do that? Like, Goblin shows up and he's eating the finger off a dead guy that they found. And people were like, that's wrong. You can't do that. And he's like, why? Why is it wrong to eat the finger of this dead dude? Right? You eat the meat of these dead cows. What's the difference? People were like, oh, this guy talked. And Goblin can talk to animals. So he's like, there's no difference. They can talk
Your
too.
Goblin did. Normally they can't.
Right, my Goblin.
Yes. Yeah, we
yes.
did a little homebrew.
Well, he also had magic and whatever, right?
Correct.
But they have language now. So in that way,
yes,
it ended up, my crowning achievement was to make the paladin admit that it's okay to not do the right thing if it's hard. Yeah. You know who you are.
Alexander.
Right.
My man.
But it was a great sort of way of engaging in sort of moral, the exploration of the idea of morality between characters and sort of question why things are the way they are, right? And the ethics. And the last thing I want to say, it's in your exploration of these things.
Right.
What?
No, it's just funny. We're talking about morals and ethics, and that was just like, it was like a verbal corruption of and confusion of the entire party, where they're like, we thought we knew which way north was, but apparently we've been reading the compass wrong. It's always at a right angle to where we need to go. Like, I don't understand. And it was an interesting interaction. You're right.
Yeah.
In the sense of you wanted to kind of hold up the mirror to let people see themselves in an unbiased way. Like you.
That's why he was a goblin.
You pulled down.
He didn't have the normal ethics.
But it was pulling down those kind of arbitrary walls of just like, this is right because this is what I know. And actually asking, like, do you know what you know? Or are you just doing it because everybody else does it?
Yes.
Right. And it was interesting because now we're talking about it. It was really the disarming of the ethical barriers of normality and actually exposing the individual morals of the characters. Right, as the players scrambled to keep up, right, and understand themselves and have that dialogue. Like there was a multi-tiered cake of confusion happening at the table, right? And you were just frosting the shit out of it, right? But it was an interesting aspect and a great character to play that took a lot of effort.
It really did.
Right,
it really did. It's super fun though.
But that's once again kind of harkening back. That's why morals and ethics are different and why they're both very important to understand.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's good. The last point I want to make is that it's okay if you don't know the answer to this exploration.
What?
Because it's an exploration. It's not necessary to find an answer because a lot of these things don't have cut and dry answers.
Yeah, sometimes the conversation is the answer.
Right, and that's the goal.
Is a greater understanding.
Yeah, of yourself and your own morals and your own ethics and why it is. Right?
Yeah.
But again, I think if you do those kind of things, you'll have a good chance of really sort of finding out something about yourself that you never knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
I think so. I think I would definitely ask myself, if I hadn't hit the like button now,
right?
Like, is that okay? Am I okay with not hitting that right now?
Ethically?
Maybe I'm going to think about it for a second.
Like, if they hit the like button because we coerce them to hit the like button. Is it ethically source liked?
You just got intimidated, bro. Or persuaded? Persuaded. Yeah, we can't intimidate you. You got a protective screen.
It's true. We can't reach you from here.
Yet AR is coming.
Yeah. Oh, just wait till we're in VR. That's dangerous.
Yeah. But anyway, please, if you do feel like it,
and subscribe.
Hit that bell.
Follow button.
Yeah, we would like it. Like it a lot.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I love it.
So now that you've done that, and we appreciate that. Or you didn't, and that's okay. We still got to earn your likes. I think this, like you've kind of just talked about, and you did bring up the rather potent and charged conversation of slavery, which is going all the way to the end of the road, talking about kind of dark themes and whatnot. But it is something that some games have. And what playing, emphasis, playing.
Yeah, don't enslave people in real life.
No.
Please.
Not worth the fries.
Also, heal doggos.
Yeah, that's a good one. When we're dealing with these things, we can really change how we look at massive problems, and we can make them simplified.
Because these do seem like really massive things.
The things that we encounter that are morally or ethically challenging are generally very large, generally very gross, or kind of, they've got a lot of inertia to the ideas.
Okay.
Whatever that is, it's very much, if it was okay and if it was normal, then it wouldn't be charged. It wouldn't have its kind of separate weight to it and its own momentum. But when we talk about, like you said, slavery, when we talk about murder, when we talk about theft, when we talk about lying for some people, these are huge barriers that they face in life. But in a game, you don't have all the consequences. You didn't actually lie, or did you?
It's tricky.
You kind of did, but you didn't. But you did, because you're playing a character, right? Like, is an actor lying when they're performing?
Right? I don't.
Well, they are, but it's harkening back to the idea of the Hippocratic Oath, right?
It's like saying an untruth for purposes of deceiving.
Yes, for the purposes of entertainment.
But it's different. Even though they are deceiving us to entertain us as actors.
Correct.
So I don't know if they're lying or not.
But they are.
Right.
Fundamentally, they are. But we appreciate it and we like it, and then we pay them scads of money when they do it really well. And they have awesome CGI. But
CGI artists, ultimate liars.
When we're talking, they are. When we're talking about these things, and it's not necessarily that these things become simplified, but we take away a lot of that inertia and that kind of real life cultural weight to the discussion, so we can explore less biased and less charged versions of some of these things in a safe space to do so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of breaks down when we're talking about moral and ethical issues. There's progressive scopes that I think that we're dealing with here. So, for instance, when we deal with a simple problem, like a theoretical question, somebody just asks you, if your family's starving and you see a piece of bread that's unattended, do you take it?
Like a thought experiment.
Yeah. Right? You're asking that question essentially in a vacuum. There's very little information, but it's enough information to base a decision upon, and that's it. We don't have any of the lead up. We don't have any of the follow through. It's just in this moment, is this an acceptable thing? Yay or nay?
Right. And there's typically no right answer either.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or all answers are wrong in some way, and you have to justify which wrong is right.
Right.
Right. And so it is a horrible thing, but it's only that thought. Right. It's one thought. That's okay. We can handle one thought.
Right.
Right. But that's what I would consider a theory. Yeah, we can. Absolutely. Yeah. I believe in you. You can handle one bad thing. But when we jump from theory, we then go up to what I would consider a closed system.
Okay.
So a closed system could be something like your TTRPG game.
Okay.
Right? Where there is a finite amount of information within the system, And in there, you can kind of do whatever you want, sandboxy style, and the consequences limited to that system. So a video game is probably a better example of this. You can, as Link running around Hyrule, go into somebody's house, smash all their pots, take all their rupees, and they're still happy to see you.
Right.
Right? That's a closed system where you are stealing literally the rug out from under people.
Yes.
And a lot of times.
Rummaging through their like cupboards and like
bookshelves. And then you go and you cut their lawn, which would technically be nice, but you cut it really short. It was nice. And
right. Abusing their chickens.
Yeah. Chicken chase. Oh, that's Fable. Anyway. Yes. But at least the chickens fight back.
Yes.
Right.
They do.
But these kinds of ideas, that's a closed system. Right. Where we get to explore that. But morally, we're safe and we just have to kind of go on our own guiding principles and we can do whatever we want. We can kill whoever we want. Generally, we can steal whatever we want. We can sell whatever we want. GTA is another example of life. Just like consequence free, I'm going to live my life how I want to live my life in this moment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I want to drive by the traffic laws and I want to go play one of their RP servers. And I want to, do that stuff and get pulled over by people playing cars.
RP servers.
Right? Okay, cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Right? But also, tomorrow, I might just want to drive around and spend money at some of their seedy places and then beat those people up that I spent the money with. I get my money back. And
I like how you navigated that.
It was good. Hey, the waters are choppy, but we stayed okay. So these kinds
Is
of
your podcast explicit? No.
F. So these are closed systems.
A.
We're going to move up. So I kind of minced words there. We're going to move up into what I would consider a safe system.
Okay.
So we've got the theory, then we've got a closed system, and now we've got a safe system. So a safe system is something like D&D, is something like a TTRPG, where I'm going to do things and they're going to affect the people around me, right? The other players. Sometimes they're going to be good things. Sometimes they're going to be neutral. Sometimes they're going to be bad things, right? And hopefully we have the discussion to mitigate the bad things, or that we understand that the bad things are just bad character things and not bad player things, right? But generally, this is a safe system to explore these things, right? Where there can be some consequences, but they're not dire consequences more often than not.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? More often than not.
Yeah, the dire ones are outliers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where they should be, if not at all. Right. But that's where we consider kind of a safe space, because we all have a mutual understanding. We all are there to be entertained by the professional liar on stage. Right.
Right.
We're
all professional liars in this case.
We're all professional. Oh, yeah.
Liars lying to each other.
Well, semi-pro or amateur. I think we're all amateur, unless you're getting paid. Get that cheddar. But
getting paid in snacks.
This is also
cookies
important
and
because
chips.
Now we can affect the real world.
Yes.
Right. And so the scope of our effect is bigger. There are actual consequences that we might have to deal with. But generally, they're okay. Generally, it's a high five after the session. Like, that was awesome. I love when you did this. I love when you did. That's a consequence. Make no mistake. It's a good consequence, but it is still a consequence of your actions therein. And then we expand a little bit bigger into an unsafe system. And that's the real world.
Yeah.
Right? Run the red light. See what happens. This is not a recommendation.
Right.
You know what could happen. Right? Don't run the red light, because the consequences aren't worth the exploration of the idea.
Yep.
Right? And there are some people, and sometimes I'm one of them, and sometimes I'm not, hypothetically, if there's any law enforcement listening, where it's 2 a.m. and there's no cars on the road, and it's a red light in front of me, and there's no red light camera.
Hypothetically.
And I'm hypothetically out in the middle of nowhere, and I can see safely that there is no oncoming traffic and whatnot. Sometimes I will go. Sometimes I will honk my horn and then go. Sometimes I will wait. And there is a fluctuation there. I'm not necessarily consistent, hypothetically, with what I'm doing in that particular scenario. But ultimately, there is a question of what's going on, right? And there's a whole bunch of circumstances. But when you go, no, it's rush hour in downtown LA, and I'm just going to take my pickup truck and I'm going to go 60. I don't care who's in my way.
You're not going 60 for long.
Well, one way or the other, you're not going 60 for long.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's these actual real world consequences that come right up in your grill real fast.
Right.
for a mixed metaphor for you.
Mhm.
But these sorts of things are not safe to explore the darker sides of nature because nature bites back.
Yep.
Right. And it's not okay to do a lot of these things. There is some places to go into those gray areas, right? And go find consent and go find whatever you want to do. Sure, great. Everyone's in agreement. But it's not a safe system. There are risks, real risks. And so when we unwind and go backwards a little bit, it would question, whenever we're dealing with a closed system, are we just being lazy? Are we just going, you know what? It's okay because the game doesn't say it's wrong to smash all the pots in somebody's house and pick up their chickens and kick them off of cliffs and stuff? Is that okay? Does that mean that there's a part of me that thinks that this is an okay thing to do in real life? I don't know. I don't know. The thought obviously exists within you. We're not all pure vessels. Right? Of thought.
Yeah.
But what you would do in that circumstance versus what you would do in other circumstances are very different, right? Because you have those controls that we talked about, the religious, the kind of learned, the education, all that kind of stuff compacts in to let you know that when you're at home, you can dip the chip in the dip as many times as you want because it's only you eating it. Or maybe you don't want your brother or sister to eat any, so you want
lick
all the
chips,
right? And you're going for gold, baby. Good for you. But when you go out to a party where there's a bunch of people you don't know, that attitude and behavior is not okay, and you know it's not okay, even in a jest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Going back to closed system, I don't think it's lazy.
What about in a safe system?
It depends on what you were there for.
Right.
Because you can play the safe system like a closed system, but then it becomes a closed system, I suppose. But like, it just depends on what
it won't, because you've got other people that you can affect.
I guess so.
Right.
I guess so. Yeah, it depends on what you're there for. I think if you're just there for like a dungeon crawl and you just want to go roll dice and do big damage, and
I love me big damage, love me rolling dice,
right, and that's it. Is it lazy not to consider the repercussions or the moral implications of slaughtering an entire Underdark of Dark Elves? Like, yeah, right. But if you wanted to go there and explore these things, and then you do that anyways without thinking about it, then maybe it is lazy.
Right. And so it's not necessarily offensive is kind of what I wanted to get to, right? It is if you want to add that to your scope as a collective group, as an ethical agreement at the table, right? If you guys want to go into that, go into that.
That is the correct term.
If you want it not to be part of your ethical agreement of what the game is about, it doesn't have to be.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so once again, though very different from other aspects that we talked about, like, go deep into your RP, go creative, do this, imagine this, recreate this, reflavor that. Ethical agreements and moral dilemmas is something that you can't necessarily play beyond the boundaries that are established because people have established boundaries on these things.
Yes.
Right. And so just be careful when it is that you're going about these things. And so you might be saying, shut up about all this theory.
Shut up about all this theory, Byron.
Give me something to think about. And so I have a few practical examples of what we might talk about. DMs, listen. Players, listen. Listen. Everyone, listen.
Non-TTRPG people, listen.
Yeah, and welcome. Thanks for finding us.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
And being here for like an hour. You're just like, whoa.
I don't know what they're talking about, but it's
I love
deep.
submarines, but morals and ethics are awesome. I really like going deep.
I came for dinosaurs and trains, but I got something way better.
Oh, where'd you come from? Dinosaurs and trains sounds awesome. Anyway, speaking of trains, that's a good segue, actually. There's one that we all are quite familiar with generally. I'm not going to say everybody, but most people know is the trolley problem, where there's a train or a cart or something traveling down the tracks, and you have the choice to either pull the lever and switch it from the track that's going to kill 5 people to the track where it's only going to kill 1 person.
Right.
Right. This is a great example of a whole bunch of different kind of theories and thoughts in philosophical questions and arguments and whatnot of what each different kind of school of thought might do. But in D&D, this one's a no-brainer. Right? We're like 1 person or 100 people.
Well, it depends on the person.
It depends on the person, but very often it's like, oh, we have to go save the princess. We need to go rescue the king. Look at Super Mario. How many Goombas got to suffer, Mario?
He killed all of them.
How many Koopas? How many Koopas? So many Koopas. This is not okay, Mario.
How many castles did you break, Mario?
Mario, just fix the
princess ain't even in this castle.
No. Toad kept telling you, but you didn't listen. This is
just get Toad to save her.
He knows where she is.
He gets to the end of the castle every time.
Yeah.
He doesn't kill no one.
Doesn't kill no one. So this begs the question then, right?
What a villain. He could have saved her, but he didn't.
Wow.
Toad.
Wow.
The more you know.
Damn you, Toad. Damn you.
That's why he's not Frog.
I will no longer pick what?
That's why he's not Frog. He's Toad.
Oh.
Because toads are bad?
Toad's stool. He's a mushroom, though.
Do they come from frogs?
Mushrooms come from... That's another topic for another day. But when we're talking about the trolley problem, a lot of times we do ignore the plight of many for the one.
You are the plight of many.
I know that that's not what the problem is asking.
Yeah.
But when given the choice of few versus the choice of many, we often choose the suffering of many.
Yeah.
Enthusiastically, right? And we go hard on them fireballs and them sickening radiances and them meteor swarms, right? Because it's super effective to get to the end where we're actually trying to get to. And we could talk forever about war crimes, but these sorts of things
just torture him.
Happen.
Fine.
Yeah, whatever. It's a-okay. But the trolley problem is an interesting one in TTRPGs because I think it's one that generally people will go opposite, like pure 180, what they might do normally in the real world.
Yeah.
Right? I think that they would save the many for the sacrifice of one. Right? I think generally people would try and do that. I don't know, though. And to each.
I think it's because it's called a monstrous manual, not like other people manual. Right?
It's your friends of varying sizes manual.
Right?
Okay.
Friends you haven't met yet manual.
Oh, nice.
Right?
This one's got six eyes.
They're monsters, so it's okay. And monsters are an object of your wrath. Right? Built only to be slaughtered.
Interesting. I think monsters are an object of your ignorance. But
anyways,
well, we can get into that.
That's another episode.
So anyway, trolley problem is an interesting one where I think people would flip in real life for what they would do during the game.
Yeah.
There's another one that I think a lot of people, definitely if you have siblings, you're familiar with. But this one's called the Veil of Ignorance. And this one essentially is trusting another to treat you fairly or treat you in a way that you would want to be treated. So a great example of this is if a pair of siblings are offered a candy bar, right? One of them gets to cut the candy bar into two pieces, and the other one gets to pick which part of the candy bar they want to take.
Right.
So if it's an unequal cut and they both desire more candy bar, then obviously the person who cut is going to suffer because they didn't treat it fairly.
Yeah.
And they gave the other person an advantage. But also the other person might not take advantage and give them because they know that you are. It's a big question. But ultimately, it's a question of, do you trust the NPC to hold on to your artifacts while you go into the anti-magic zone because you don't want to risk them being destroyed, right? Like there are questions that we can do in D&D that resemble this of just, I need to trust that you're going to treat me in the way that I would treat you. And I just have to live in that trust. And we talked all about that trust, betrayal, wheel, and whatnot. And if you aren't all the way out on that branch by then, I don't know when you're ever going to be in those kind of scenarios. But being vulnerable and giving up that sort of control is sometimes a moral question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And how do I treat you and how do I expect you to treat me? And did I treat you the way that you should treat me and vice versa? All of these things and the question of what are their morals and understanding on how they are. When we boil it down to core values, you should be secure, but you never know, right? Never know. And you DMs, you dastardly
Tricksty
fellows, dastardly. Another example is what I would call the Boromir dilemma. And it's not how to die in every movie that you're in.
Right.
We love you, Sean Penn. We love you. No, it's the idea of if there is something of great
Ned Stark?
power.
No, it's Boromir.
It is now. Poor Ned. If there's an object of great power that we could use as a weapon, as a tool for ourselves to create peace, to create a better future, but instead we choose to deny ourselves this because we're also denying the enemy the possibility of using this, is that the better choice? Right? And for a D&D example, what happens if you've been contracted by a gnomish village who's had problems with kobolds?
Okay.
And now they're worried that the kobolds have pulled back and are getting ready to amass for a big attack that will wipe out the town because they haven't seen any activity and they're very concerned.
Right.
Very concerned. The party is hired. You go out, you find the warrens where the kobolds live, and you find that they have found an object of power that is very desirable.
Right.
But it has also changed them from aggressive to pacifist in nature. The kobolds will no longer bother the gnomes forever. What does the party do?
Right.
Right? There's no longer a threat to the people who hired them because the gnomes didn't hire you to kill all the kobolds. They hired you to find out what's going on.
Right.
Right? And so the party goes, well, we could kill all the kobolds and take the super awesome artifact because we could use that. And then the gnomes won't have to worry about the kobolds. But then that is unprovoked murder because they're pacifists now, remember.
Right.
Right? But we could take it. Or we could just go and take it because they're pacifists. And then we'll be gone by the time they become aggressive. But then we could just go and tell the gnomes that, oh, yeah, they were. But, we dealt with some of their big forces.
Right.
Just expect the regular stuff to happen again. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
There's a deception again.
There's that deception again. You could play it so many different ways. But it becomes a dilemma and a question as to the core of the group's morality. Because ethics is gone now. You are alone, out in the wilderness without any kind of supervisor or observatory board watching you. Maybe, unless there's a divination at work. But what does the characters do?
Yeah.
Right? What decision do they make and how do they align within themselves? If you've got good characters, they're probably going to do something in the line of don't touch it. Leave it where it is. Yeah, it's super awesome. But the rogue will be like, yeah, but anybody could come and take it. We should probably take it because that's the best for everyone if we have that thing.
Right.
Right? Because anybody could come take it if they
How many other villages can we save if we take it?
The gnomes might come and take it, and then they'll be all crazy murder gnomes.
Right.
You never know. But this is a great question that has no right answer, but it has huge environmental impact.
Right. And it has huge impacts on your morality and ethics. What you do.
Right? And even as the
or
DM, not doing is interesting as well. But as the DM, this is one of those hand grenades that you can just kind of toss out and then sit behind your screen and just listen real hard to the conversation that ensues, because the conversation can be as or more important than the action that they finally come to.
Yep.
Right? And because you never know, they go, okay, we're all going to walk away from this and that's it. Okay, great. The cleric and the paladin have won the day. Good wins. The next downtime that you have, the rogue and the bard are like, F that. We're going back and we're getting that thing.
Right.
We are getting that thing. Why? Because our ethical leaders are gone.
Yep.
And our moral compass,
Notice me, Kampai. What?
Compasses, plural, Kampai?
I think it's just compasses.
Compasses, whatever.
I like Kampai, though.
Their individual moral... Gambe. Individually, they're okay with that.
Yep.
And they found somebody who will exist in their echo chamber, and they're like, yeah, let's go get it. Because it's super worth it, because it's an awesome, powerful magical item. Right? And then they'll deal with the consequences.
TTRPG.
They'll deal with the consequences later when their ethical overlords are back, and they're like, where did you get that? And like, we found it. Because obviously they're okay with, well, maybe they're not okay with lying. Maybe like, no, we went back because we couldn't just leave it there. Cool. They're going to tell the truth. Good for you. Own up to your stuff. And finally, I think as a great example for an evil campaign, or just a campaign maybe with a little bit of spice to it,
okay,
a little bit of anarchy. If you've got a government that your PCs are trying to overthrow, or let's call it some just organization that's in control of the other, whether that's kings, whether that's an organization itself, whether that's the Thieves Guild, whether that's the church, whatever it is that's kind of in control of the area, your party, not you necessarily, but your party is trying to destabilize the region. And so they choose this new building from this oppressive tyranny of a government to go in and ruin their grand opening of this new building. They don't know what it is, but they know it's really important to the government.
Yep.
And it won't be protected because it's being celebrated. Right. So they can't have all the guards and all the wards and all the protections if there's just going to be random people coming up to us. So this is the time to strike. And right before they get to it, they've planned to burn the thing down because PCs love burning things. They arrive at the destination and they find out that this is the grand opening of a new orphanage. This is going to be a place where children who are wayward and lost and whatnot can come and find a bed, a warm bowl of soup, shelter, everything that they need in order to become living, and continue to survive in this world. Whatever it is, you fill in the world. I'm not going to do all the work for you. But what happens to the PCs when they go, no, this is a brick in the institutional wall of the government. And we swore to kind of topple that? And it's not.
What do we want?
It's not full of kids yet. Well, it's not full of kids now, but it will be. And if we burn it down, then we could be doing something really wrong, even though our goal is just. We want to destabilize this. We want to make them lose power, so that the benign king, queen, whatever that's been pushed out, can come in, or whatever other organization. Is the ends justifying the means? Right. So these are just examples that you can use, or feel free to take them. Please take them. Take them all. That you can put in there to let the characters and the players ask themselves these questions.
Right.
And really dig deep into what it is that they've created, as long as, once again, you guys have decided that this is the type of system.
Yep.
The safe system or whatever that you're looking at, where you can do that. And I think that's really an important way to allow characters to grow by giving them interesting questions.
Yep.
Right? Questions without answers. And that's not, I don't know how to solve the puzzle. I'm going to wait till one of you says something good. Not that kind of question to allow them to grow in it. It's not a Rubik's Cube that you put on the desk and go, you're all evil until you figure this out. It's not that. But it is a way to let the players gain better understanding of themselves and of their characters in a way that is, free therapy, because that's what we love here.
Right.
Playing TTRPGs.
It's a good therapy. It's questionable, but therapy
it's free. It's free. You get what you pay for.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. Let's sit on that idea of morals and ethics as a DM.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like you presented there in those quandaries, those thought experiments. But I think you need, if you're wanting to build sort of this exploration of morals and ethics into your campaign, there is some sort of background work you're gonna have to do to set it up, to make it so that it makes sense.
Okay.
Right. So you sit down, session 0. Great. Yes, my players want to explore ethics and morality. It's one of the things they want to do in the campaign. But it's hard to do that in a vacuum, like you said. Right? So great. Now you need to add a system of morals and ethics into the cultures of your world. If you're not playing a pre-published sort of campaign world and you're doing your own.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because typically that's not the first place that we start at. Right? Morals and ethics. Right?
Not typically.
But now, if
you do, jump in the comments. It's an interesting build variation.
And if the players didn't want to explore ethics and morality, you can kind of leave that, right?
Is that the Drake meme?
Oh.
Morals and ethics. Loot next week.
Yeah. Right? Then you can sort of leave that out.
Thank you, Drake.
But if they do want to, then you're going to kind of have to start adding that stuff into your campaign world to be explored.
Yes.
Right. So like I said, you don't have to, but if that's what they want to do, then you really got to think about sort of what we talked about, right? Like, because things will get complicated really fast.
They can.
Right? If you let it.
Yeah, if you let it.
If you let it.
Yeah.
Is it worth it for your table?
I think so.
To do that? If it's something they want to explore it,
yes.
Then yes.
It's also not something that you have to have planned from day one.
Yep.
Right. You can get to know the characters a little bit and then figure out what makes them tick and which buttons to push.
Yep.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. But if it's something you want to explore, you're gonna have to. Kind of. I think that's the reality of it.
Well, you'll have an open mind towards it. Right?
Yeah.
But that's that everything is everything and nothing.
You have to do some work, I think.
Correct.
Right. It's like you're gonna probably have different areas that they're gonna go to. Let's go into one area. It doesn't matter. You have an area.
Yes.
Right. You have to start thinking about sort of the cultural context.
I'm thinking about it right now.
Of that area, like what do they believe in? What's their lifestyle? What are they forced to do to survive?
Yes.
Right? That'll inform morality and ethics.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, say water is scarce. There, you do not waste any water. Spitting is punishable by death.
Yeah?
Right? You do not waste any water.
That's like Dune, right? Where they spit and they're like, I'm giving you the gift of moisture of my body to
Stay
show
moist.
you. Stay moist. I erect the spine of moistness. Argonians in Dune would be awesome. Somebody needs to do that crossover.
Right. So the cultural context, right, of your morality there. Let's talk about belief systems, like your gods, right, in your religions that are there.
Praise the hist.
Yes. Your social structures. Do you have nobles? Do you have peasants? Do you have a wealthy merchant middle class? How do they see each other, right? How do their morals and their ethics sort of clash within that area or between those areas?
Well, you can establish the generalized layers of ethical treatment between the classes, but then you can always find this merchant is the a-hole. That merchant is the benign, benevolent one, right? He treats people fairly. He pays a little extra.
Right. And it's just my day to hit the microphone.
Pow, 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 pow.
Right. And all these things will mesh together, right? Like you have religious beliefs or one side, you have then you have the mix with the what do they call them? The nobles, the merchants, and they all have different sort of beliefs and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and all mesh together. Like, like this is not right, but because I'm a noble, it's fine if I do it to the peasants because they're just peasants. I'm a noble, blah, 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 right?
Or maybe since I'm a noble, I am not able to be prosecuted by certain laws.
Right. That's the last point.
Yeah.
Talk about your laws.
Damn,
right?
yeah.
Right. Laws apply for poor people only because it's a fine.
Ta-da.
Right. And so forth.
Yes.
Right. So those sort of things, add those in. Just even at basic levels.
Correct.
Right, to different areas.
Yep.
If you have 2 areas, do it for each area. If one area, do it for the different areas. But you have sub-areas within the areas anyways, different groups of people. Again, that's cultural context. It's belief systems, social structures, and laws.
Okay.
There's other things, but those are the main ones, I think.
You just said a lot in one sentence, but yes.
Yes.
I agree. DMs,
rewind.
Yeah, you guys have the benefit of going back in time.
This point is you're going to need notes. So feel free to watch as many times as you want.
I got my fantasy pen ready.
Right. And then what you want to do after you have set those for all the different groups in different areas, you want to go and create engaging moral dilemmas. Like you talked about.
Ta-da.
Right. And conflicts within the country or area to encourage players to explore that.
Yeah.
So like you've got different groups within a certain area that have conflicting moral sort of beliefs, systems, and ethics, and neither one is completely right.
Yes.
So as the players go and they interact with them, they get to decide who is right and why and so forth.
Yeah.
What?
No, I was going to do a nice 50 Shades thing. I was like, 50 Shades of roleplay.
No, 50 Shades of roleplay.
No, it's still 50 Shades.
Yeah.
I didn't get far enough away from it.
But let's, and for the purposes of creating engaging moral dilemmas, let's talk about how to play around with sort of ethical theories.
Oh, okay. Look, I was talking about like different schools of thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There's a couple when you're talking about ethics. The main ones I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about utilitarianism.
All right.
Right.
Like Batman's belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was being facetious.
The belt of ethics.
Yeah, belt of ethics. Yes.
Basically, that's
ethically holds up my pants.
What's ethical is whatever brings the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Oh, okay.
Right. And if
it
you
is
have
Batman's belt.
Right. And so in that case, in the trolley experiment, you would totally run over that one person.
Yes.
Right. Unless those 5 ones tied down are not people. They're just goblins. Then you can smoke all the goblins because the princess is a person. It depends, right? But like, what do you consider people?
Right.
So that's basically...
You consider one person to be infinitely more valuable than goblins.
Right. It's like, do you save the savior of the world, the most righteous person in the world, or do you run over 5 criminals who are just murdering?
Right.
Or who are going to murder some more?
Yeah.
Right. But utilitarianism, that's basically the ends justify the means.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have some stuff like what they call Kantian ethics. Kant.
K-A-N-T.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not C-U-N-T.
Seen it. Yeah.
Not that one.
Not that one.
And that's basically talking about how there's inherent morality within the action itself. So killing someone is bad.
Okay.
No matter the reason.
Oh, okay.
Killing is always bad.
Oh, okay.
Whereas sort of forgiving someone is always good.
Okay.
No matter what. It's inherent in the action, not in the context itself.
So regardless of 1 or 5 people, it was wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. If you're saying
no
that.
win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess
killing
doing it 5 times is worse than doing it once. So you let the 5 people go?
Maybe. Again, it's difficult for that one.
Okay.
Right? It's wrong. It's all wrong, I think.
There's all wrong. Okay.
Right? So it's the inherent sort of ethics or moralities of the action itself.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like, I murdered the guy who came into my house because they were going to kill my kids. That's fine.
Okay.
But it's not in Kantian.
No.
Because your murder is bad.
Yeah. Killing is bad.
Yeah. Okay. It's the same as killing someone for fun.
Yeah. Or for food.
Correct.
Well, if it's a person. Is it an animal?
But
is a life a life?
Depends on what you say, what the inherent morality is in that action. You said it.
Okay.
Right. Because again, morals are personal.
Correct.
Right. Then you have virtue ethics, which is virtue ethic. It sounds like what it is.
Yeah.
It's a cultivation of sort of virtuous traits like honesty versus compassion versus courage.
Or not versus?
Oh, not versus, but honesty is something that's ethical. Things that
yes.
Compassion
are
is
ethical or moral?
Ethical.
Are ethical
and moral. Moral.
Yeah. Okay.
Moral and therefore ethical.
Cool.
Because ethics are based on moral.
Nope, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Courage, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So virtues, like whatever is the virtues that we know as virtues is
like
what's based on the ethics.
7 divine virtues?
I guess so. Is there 7 divine virtues?
I think it's so because it's opposing the 7 deadly sins.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, we have ethics of relativism.
Oh, okay.
It's that everything is good compared to something that's more evil, or something where the same action is evil compared to something that's more good. It's acknowledging sort of that
brutal,
comparison, how things can be better or evil compared to something else.
Right.
So
nothing is ever actually good or evil. It's just
in comparison.
Only when by itself you have to compare it to something else. By itself, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah. And then the last one is ethics of care. And this last one is sort of a pushback against sort of this sort of more cold analytical style that we just talked about of ethics. And it places more importance on sort of interpersonal connections between people, relationships, and taking care of the needs of others as being ethical.
Okay.
As opposed to, it doesn't matter if it's better or worse compared to something else, as long as I'm taking care of someone's needs.
Okay.
Right. Again, all these, none of them are perfect, but these are just different ideas of how people think about ethics.
I like the ethics of care because it's kind of a mix of like virtue and Kantian.
It's very human.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good side of humanity.
Well, depends on the needs. Like, I didn't take care of my son, but he needs a liver transplant. So I'm going to take it from this dude.
Dude.
Who also needs it. Right? Like,
just half, right? You can take half.
Right.
It'll grow back.
Right? He was going to die anyways. I'm just killing him sooner.
From alcohol abuse, probably.
Or whatever, right? That
can't use that liver.
My liver's got a lot of practice. So strong.
So well practiced.
So yeah, those are just different sort of theories of ethics that you can sort of take and put into your different countries, your different associations, your different churches or whatever.
Interesting.
And then play them off of each other.
Yes.
So again, take notes and just assign them, right? And what they believe.
Right.
And how they sort of a paladin that follows one sort of ethical theory compared to a paladin on following another sort of ethical theory, and see how they react and how the
right, you just blew my brain
because they both are moral in their own systems, right? And then you see how you explore that through that those comparison and that collision,
like a Kantian conquest paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I do not care. Murder is wrong.
Yep.
I'm going to kill you for that.
Right.
Right. I'm exact because what you did is evil and wrong. And so this is the punishment for that. Versus like a utilitarian conquest paladin, which is like, what you did was wrong by the law, but it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
And so this time, by the skin of your teeth, get out of my sight.
Yeah.
Right. Don't ever let me catch you.
So they're interesting guidelines and sort of interesting ways of sort of going about being good.
Super cool.
Or being ethical.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So hopefully some food for thought when you're a DM and you're trying to build sort of ethical systems and moral systems. Yeah.
Yeah. There's goodness within you. I can feel it.
Yeah.
No. I'm getting lost.
Your mind is slow.
No, I was like, oh my God, I have so many more paladins I have to play now.
We love it. They're all paladins, Byron. They're all ethical paladins, Bront.
I want it.
They're all ethical dogs.
Ethically.
Morally.
I gotta recollect my face nodes. That's super cool. Specifically with paladins. I think that there's a huge amount of impact, like direct impact. But who's to say that you couldn't do the same thing with a barbarian?
Yeah.
Like, base your rage on a set of ethics.
You're bad.
Right? Like, no, super cool. Super. More goodness. No, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. No, it's something I'm going to have
We'll talk about it off camera.
The after show is going to be hot tonight. When we get teleported back and I talk to my Sean, he's like, what?
CUNT? What?
Yeah. Poor Sean.
What kind of paladin is it?
A virtuous one. No, an ethical one. An ethical one. They're all ethical. That's amazing. Wow. So I think after that little bombshell, it's insert awesome graphics here, editor.
Oh, really? You're gonna do that? You're gonna do that?
I think that the only thing that we haven't really necessarily discussed, perhaps, kind of touched around. We've talked about a lot of stuff here. Is kind of the opposite side of the viewpoint here. Still with that kind of understanding of morals and ethics and whatnot. But I think we've been looking at them top down.
Okay.
As from a spectrum of good being close and evil farther away, right? Farther from the norm and deviant.
Yeah.
Where I would like to maybe put out there that there's there's an importance of understanding Kintsugi.
Okay.
Now, if you're not familiar, Kintsugi is...
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't want our Japanese speakers to get offended.
Japan will rip me.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
No, it's not Kintsugi. It's Kintsugi.
Kintsugi is, because I have another Japanese word, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is part of an example of the philosophy of wabi-sabi.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, nice. Yep. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. What this is essentially is looking at the world or your experiences, or in the small version of Kintsugi, as defining and understanding and appreciating something for its flaws. And that act of, if you're familiar with it, where they take and repair pottery with lacquers that mix in precious metals like gold or platinum or silver or whatnot, and highlight the beauty of what has been rebuilt from what harm or tragedy it suffered is now rebuilt to be as good as it was before with more beauty.
It's a really pretty idea.
It is a very pretty idea. And I think because we're in a safe system, generally, we can look forward to perceiving ourselves and our characters through their flaws as good things.
Right.
Right. And so I would almost put forth that ethics create the world that we're playing in to be the way it is. But it's the morals of the people within it that generate our heroes and our villains. Right? We know that PCs are exceptional. They're not NPCs. They are a cut above, or they're a cut different from the rest. And it's that moral difference in them that drives them, or that experience that changed them and changed their outlook on how they deal with things, that have pushed them to become a special person.
Yeah, it's not their ethics, it's their morals.
It's the morals that make them stand out.
Yeah.
And one of the great things that we do as world builders, as story writers, one of the ways, and we talked about this with villains before, is you can take a villain and change one thing about them from one of your main characters. One thing.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, they are a mirror image of that person, of what could have happened and where their story could have gone. It could have gone, quote unquote, wrong. Right. And we can look at these changes that you can inflict and do by just shifting one bead from the good column to the bad column, or whatever it is, one serious kind of idea shift. And that becomes a very interesting parallel between the characters. Right? Why is it okay to not do something good if it's hard? Right? Something had to get you to that point. That's because that's a huge statement. Yeah. Right? Yeah, it is. Doesn't matter who says it. That's a huge statement. Yeah. And so these types of things can be used in a very proactive way of utilizing our flaws, utilizing the difference in our decision making, whether that's through an NPC. And remember, you can be brutal with NPCs.
Be brutal to NPCs.
Be brutal to them, be brutal with them, right? Teach the lesson that they're supposed to impart, right? Kindness can be a lesson that they impart. Yep. Right? So can cruelty. Right? They can both be
forgiveness, redemption, right? All that stuff.
Yeah. All of those things, all of those aspects, all those virtuous ethic things can be taught through NPCs, as can the reverse of that, right? But it's the difference in their faults that can make them really beautiful and interesting.
Right. As characters,
especially if you try and appreciate them, switch the perspective, try and appreciate them as being unique because of their flaws, not their conformities. Right. Yeah. And when we go through these kinds of things, understand that we have all done naughty things while playing D&D.
Yes.
We have all ignored Geneva Conventions, and we have all ignored, collateral damage and all of these sorts of things. In fact, sometimes we have reveled in these sorts of things, making them can I rule of cool this? Yes, you can surf on the orphan across the. We're not going to
orphan. Wow. Well, he's an orphan orc, so it's okay.
An orphan? He's surfs up, dude.
The government they have a new building for orphans. Let's just burn it down.
Nah, bro, catch and wave. These sorts of things we can, like in the preamble talked about, these become kind of that dark tapestry of the actions.
Yep.
No matter how virtuous, somebody is viewing what you did as wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's, for every good action, somebody can view that as a negative or a wrong or evil or whatever it is, right? Because they don't share your ethics, your morals, right? Or your group's morals, your group's ethics. And that can become very interesting to explore as the DM, as the party, as you guys want to explore, because that's what you said in session 0.
Yep.
Great. I'm going to put in somebody who's the exact opposite, right? I'm going to create the balance, that orthogonal development to show you what the other side of the looking glass is going to look like, right? So when you go in and you guys decide as a group, no, we will give quarter. We will grant mercy. They don't. Their rules of engagement, no.
Right.
You are in my way.
That's it.
That's it.
No prisoners.
It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter your age, sex, gender, race. Doesn't matter. Flora, fauna, creature, object, nothing will stand in my path. And that's a very easy contrast to mercy, kindness, right? No, let's pull the fight away from the farmers, away from the villagers, fight them in the field over there, right? Where we can control some of the damage. They use fire. Let's fight them by the river. So in case things happen, we can douse. We have quick access to water, whatever it is. Those kinds of things.
Right.
One interesting not parallel, I suppose this is perpendicular.
Timeout.
Not a timeout. Is when we look at what we would consider a normal human kingdom. Right? Like, let's look at Waterdeep or Baldur's Gate. It doesn't really matter. Neverwinter. Right? Let's look at these.
Always summer.
I want to go there.
Those elves.
When we look at these places, these human cities, which some of you have played lots of campaigns in, right? And we compare that with the hierarchy and the extreme lawful nature of the 9 hells.
Right.
Right? The denizens of Bator, right, have an extremely lawful system.
Yep.
They righteously punish anybody who dares to break a contract. Does that mean that they're more lawful? And if lawful is a good thing, does that mean that devils are better societally speaking than humans?
Well, laws are at the end of the moral spectrum.
Right. And I think for them, it kind of bumps up a little bit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Up that kind of scale.
Well, because their laws are religious too. Their religion as well.
Laws are religious as well, yes. But when we look at it, that cultural relativism, like you mentioned before, right? The human world is there.
Humans first.
Okay, great. If that's the one that we're basing everything on, then it's neither good or bad. You can't say that humans are good because we haven't compared them to anything.
Right. They just are.
Right? They just are. The stat blocks tell us that ethically, there are races of other humanoids and whatnot that are more evil than, and that are more good than, right? We can go in both directions.
Cultural continuism.
Cultural cants, yes. It can absolutely happen.
Yeah.
But what we have to do then is define who's in the middle. Who is our kind of keystone or our cornerstone? Our cornerstone of this alignment shift, of what we're going to compare to. And then how do we view them beautifully when normally we're supposed to view them negatively? right? What are the virtues of drow society, of the stereotypical drow society? Right? Is there a virtue? Can you find it? Because there's got to be something in there.
Right.
Maybe there isn't. This is a great example because it's real rough.
It's real rough down there, yeah.
But maybe there is something good about it. Not if you know anything about Corellian, but it's.
Are they feminists?
They are. I guess they are feminists
in some definitions.
Well, I don't know if they're feminists, but not seeking equality.
No,
feminists seeking domination.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's feminism. I'm not.
Yeah, certain kinds of feminism.
Well, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there.
But with that understanding can we try and find the virtues therein? Right.
Right.
What is good about that society? It's very orderly. But there's a lot of trickery. There's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of there's a lot of meritocracy happening. With a powerful rise to the upper echelons.
Right.
Right. Is that a good thing? Maybe in small doses, but not for everyone, because that means that the weak suffer, right? And we know when we're virtuous, we need to be merciful. We need to be kind. We need to protect. And so kind of things like this are really interesting. Even the consequences of magic.
Yes.
Right. Like, and some of the magic that you can do is just like, oh yes, we killed 1,000 people. Sure. But I can bring them back. No, really. It's like their deaths are meaningless because I can reverse that.
Well, I tortured him for 3 hours till he gave me the answer that I wanted.
And then I wiped his memory.
Yep.
He doesn't know that he was tortured.
Right. And
I healed him.
Yep.
There is no evidence that I did anything wrong to him or anything dastardly or any of that. Does that pain then still exist for him from their perspective? Mm-hmm. If it's an NPC, right? Do they know?
Well, depending on your ethical theory, it could be very good or
it could be fine. It could be perfectly fine. Yep. Right? Or you could have done something even worse because you went and not only manipulated somebody's body, but you affected their mind. Enchantment charm is so evil sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Friends, charm person, suggestion.
Just nonchalantly deceiving people and manipulating them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
glibness.
Like what do you do? Just do the innkeep. Why? To get a discount.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of implication there. We're not even talking like stinking cloud and incendiary cloud.
I want a free coffee, so I'm just gonna gaslight the barista.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I already paid for that. Oh, you're right. You did. Here you go. Thanks. Oh, you made it wrong. Can you remake it? Right? There is very small infractions to very huge infractions, right? Mm-hmm. Mass suggestion. And stuff like that gets crazy.
Well, there's no consent. There's no nothing.
There's nothing. Any of those kind of domination spell that you don't even get to do something in compliance with the request.
Right.
You do what their will tells you to do to the best of your ability. Right. You don't get a say. You just do it. This is huge. Yep. Right. Blighting someone's field or cursing them or whatever, right? Causing massive agricultural disruption if you're doing environmental damage and whatnot. But also I can reverse that. It's been 7 years of famine. Why didn't you call the druid? Like just pay him 100 gold, bless the field. We will have corn in 3 days. No one will be hungry again. Why? Like there's
at this point, if you don't bless the land, you are evil.
You are evil, right? Like you could have done it. It's so simple. It's so easy.
The evil the good that you should have done, that you ought to do, that you don't.
And so it becomes super complicated when you get involved with magic. And that is a whole X factor that we haven't talked about at all. Because when we talk about going too hard, too fast, magic does that.
The ethic of magic. Oof.
Right. I don't even know if wizards would be lawfully allowed. Or they would be the only ones. They would be that kind of 1%. Illuminati 1%, and they would control everything. And should you dare to disrupt the battle, no, you are literally disintegrated. You no longer exist. Magic is scary. Mm-hmm. When we start talking about moral and ethical implications.
Good thing you have gods to stop them.
Right. This is exactly, well, kind of. But I mean, this is a great example of like the Red Wizards of Thay.
Yep.
Right, where they endorse necromancy, they endorse power, they like the Tulani of Morrowind. Tulani? Not Tulani. Those are the good guys.
Not Tunek.
Whatever.
Tunek.
Them. Dunmer? No.
Dunmer.
Yeah.
The Dark Elves.
The Dark Elves. Yeah, it's one of the families.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, burn each other, and they live in their tall mushrooms.
Burn. Yes,
because they are wizards that believe in power.
Anyway, whatever.
We fail. These sorts of things are very important to consider from both sides of the spectrum, because at the end of the day or the session, it is a fair question to ask.
Yes.
Are we the bad guys?
Right.
Right. Did we have a bad, quote unquote, bad day? Have we had a bad week? Or are we having a bad campaign? Well, it turned out great. Yeah, but the blood, sweat, and tears left in your wake of destruction could argue that maybe you're not the bad guy. You beat the worst guy. Right. But you're not the good guys.
Sometimes it takes a monster to defeat a monster.
Sometimes you could find yourself featured in the monstrous manual. Right. But this is a fair question. This is a fair question to ask, depending on where you find yourself in that alignment, what your core values are. Have you deviated from them? Have you stuck hard and fast to them, but watched others break rules around you, and you were complacent in their sin, I suppose, or their deviance from your moral alignment? And how does that affect what it is that you're doing? Can it truly be a good thing if you've done evil to get there? Some will say yes.
Batman's belt will say yes.
Batman's belt says whatever he needs it to, because he's got everything.
Right?
So many pockets.
Steal these pockets.
But this is a tough, and there's no answer to this question.
Yep.
Only you will have an understanding of where you're at and where your PC is at and where your party is at. And if it's not going in the right direction, what do you want to do about it? Are you going to do anything about it? Are you going to shift that trolley from 5 evils to aim for 1 evil instead and make a positive impact? Or are you just going to, smite that 1 as you go by over the other 5 to make everything equal?
Just kill them all.
Just kill them all. Let God sort them out.
Or just put it in the middle and kill the engineer.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just telekinesis the trolley over the whole thing? Right? It changes everything. Magic. Good old magic.
Just kill them all and just raise them all as skeletons.
Oh, nice.
Right?
They can live on forever.
Exactly.
Happy with their skeleton buddies. Playing with their skeleton dog.
Right?
Yeah. Like
being tied to their skeleton train tracks. Are we back in here in life? And when will this end? The thought experiment. I thought it ended with death.
It never ends. So, yeah, I think...
I stopped there.
That's a heavy load, but I think that's a great question to leave with you. Because I think that you're probably a good person. I think that you make good choices, or the best choices that you can make. And maybe your character does the same. But you have that one character that you're thinking about that doesn't. Right? Because it's always fun to flirt with those lines and to play around with your concept and conception of these sorts of things. We all have that one character in our back pocket that would definitely jack somebody and steal all their stuff.
Well, because none of us are perfect.
Correct.
Right? We do have those broken parts of us and those darker parts of us. And D&D is a great place to explore that in a safe manner.
Correct.
Right? So take all the things that we've talked about, try to really grok it, and then...
Grok it?
You have to fully understand it completely.
Grok.
Okay.
Grok it.
Grok the things that we've spoken in this episode.
Grok the shit out of it.
And go and explore your own moralities and your own ethics, and have fun. And come out, I don't know if you're a better person on the other side, but...
More enlightened. Yeah,
exactly. Right? Hopefully, we've enlightened you when you found value in this episode. It's been heavy, and I think it's coming on 2 hours now.
Let us know how you like these longer sessions, we keep digging into bigger topics and bigger ideas because that's what the wizard tells us. Dungeon Master, sorry. That's what the Dungeon Master tells us that we have to do. Let us know if you like it. Let us know if you have a big idea that you want discussed, and we can take a stab at it. Or you can be like, hey, Caffeine, shut up. Cantrips, be quiet.
Yeah.
Let's deal with something.
Just give me top 10 best classes.
Yeah. And they start with Paladin, they end with Paladin.
In the middle, you know what's there? Paladin.
Paladin all the way down.
Right? Give me the 5 best Paladin subclasses.
Paladin.
Walmart.
That's Florida Man. Oath of the Florida Man.
Oh, Walmart's there too, though.
I think so. We gotta do
Florida Man's top, though, probably.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Gator Smite.
Anyways, thank you for sticking with us this whole entire episode.
What ethical devotion you have.
Right? This has been Caffeine and Cantrips.
Sure has.
I'm Sean.
And I am Byron.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Or else. You do your announcer voice. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like that? What's the announcer voice?
Where you talk like this.
Yes.
And every word is enunciated.
Yes.
Except for backlanes. It was like backlands. I was like, what the fuck's a
Them
backland?
backlands.
Them backlands.
We're gonna head to them backlands to get them.
I want 2 orders of
Backlands.
backlands with extra sauce. Backlands.
Drop some of that mustard on my backlands.
Oh, I'll give you some mustard.
Rub it in.